Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a video for you about my top 3 furry animes, and you're immediately thinking that I've gone crazy, but I promise you the exact opposite is true. I haven't lost my mind. As a matter of fact, I'm in better health and more in my mind recently, and after being out for so long, I'm just kind of in the mood to make some fun videos. Besides, talking about furry anime isn't that crazy or embarrassing, is it? I mean, let's check in with Hayden over in the editing bay since he has to put this whole project together.
Okay.
Okay, well, that's just your opinion then, Hayden. I'm going to share with you my opinion about media in general and tell you kind of why I watched these 3 furry animes, because that should be a pretty embarrassing thing, I know. I will watch anything that isn't boring. My number 1 rule for watching media is that it can't be boring. If it's on Netflix, if it's on Shudder, Amazon Prime, YouTube, anything, I don't watch a lot of stuff that isn't boring. And a matter of fact, the more energetic, the more exciting, kinematic, and crazy it is, like crazy is kind of a special one for me, I usually really genuinely enjoy that. I watch a lot of Adult Swim stuff like Dream Corp LLC, which is quite fun. And because I'm totally down with crazy, I'll watch pretty much the first episode of anything. And based on some recommendations of my Discord moderators, I found these 3 amazing shows that just happen to be about furries, or kind of broadly furry themed. You know, the shows are great, but they're about, you know, humanoid animals. I'm personally not a furry myself, believe it or not, but I'm also absolutely not ashamed to have watched and unironically enjoyed these shows because they're great. So we're going to start off with the number 3 today. It's going to be the bottom of our list is Beastars, the Netflix animated series. This one is complicated, but I'm going to try to truncate it. Think Zootopia, but R-rated and frequently horny, very adult. Lots of animals kind of wanting to bang it out or actually banging it out on screen. This is based on a manga about the lives of high school students set in a world of sentient, somewhat humanoid animals, where every single animal has a broadly human form, easier to animate. This definitely sounds like the intro to a smutty fan fiction, but it's actually more about realism and uncomfortable, creepy realism about what it would really be like to live in the world of Zootopia, where animals are sentient, where they try to take care of themselves, where carnivores and herbivores are constantly at struggle, where there's class differences between the different types of animals based on their size, strength, abilities, whatever. There's a lot of parallels in Beastars with our kind of current class structures in the real world, and there's definitely a haves and have-nots between carnivores and herbivores. The main plot of this follows a wolf by the name of Legoshi, who becomes smitten by and falls in love with a rabbit named Haru after he sort of gives in to his animal instincts and attacks her. Because in this world, carnivores aren't allowed to eat herbivores. That's murder. You're not supposed to do that. It's like the biggest sin, the biggest taboo, the worst thing. He almost eats her, but then changes his mind last minute and ends up falling in love. So it's this really crazy, weird love story. It's actually a love triangle where the wolf doesn't know if he wants to bang this rabbit or eat this rabbit, and the rabbit doesn't know if she wants to be banged or eaten. Or there's a ton of subplots in the show about an illegal meat market where they will murder herbivores and serve them up, or people will sell their fingers and parts that they don't need, or just one bite for $1,000 so the meat eaters can get their meat. There are pack animal gangs, you know, like lions, wolves, dogs, any like predatory groups. They tend to form like illegal groups, and they kind of act like Yakuza because it's Japanese. Man, there's even a subplot about a chicken girl that works out super hard and eats a special diet so that she can lay the most delicious eggs to get the attention of the herbivore boys that have to get their protein that way. It's a weird show, and despite all of this weirdness, they still like pack in a little bit of that Japanese style slice of life, which I'm personally not a big fan of, but it's kind of a nice compliment to this. Season 1 of Beastars, in my opinion, is much better than Season 2, and it has some very strong Adult Swim levels of surrealism to it. It has a tendency to go from relatively normal to very uncomfortable faster than you might think, but you just can't look away from the craziness that you're seeing, and in a lot of ways, it kind of borderlines horror, like surrealist horror, like some David Lynch kind of stuff. And honestly, that makes it kind of fun. It'll bounce back and forth between horny to horror to, you know, comedy to slice of life. And on top of all of that, not only is it well acted, but the animation is very good. It's computer animated, so it's CG, but it's one of the better CG animated Netflix series. And Honestly, I enjoyed the whole thing. It was crazy, and I just couldn't look away from it the entire time, no matter what was going on. Number 2 today is BNA from Studio Trigger. It stands for Brand New Animal. This is available on Netflix in basically every language in the world, and the dubs are quite good too. Some of you anime aficionados out there, people of culture, might be familiar with Studio Trigger. They're an independent anime studio, which is very rare in Japan. They mostly do projects from Kickstarter, which this was one of those. They made Kill la Kill, Promare. They're working on the upcoming Cyberpunk 2077 anime. And one thing that Studio Trigger does not do is slow. And they also have their very unique style of drawing. So while the basic plot of BNA, the sort of background fundamentals are very similar to Beastars, it has a completely, totally, radically different style and pace going on. It is moving at turbo speed, and I love it. You will get more plot and more things happening per minute and per episode than you will with almost any other anime or anime studio on the planet. So let's talk about that plot. It takes place in Anima City, which is where the Beastmen live, and in the context of this world, a Beastman is a person who can transform between a human and a sort of humanoid animal. You can look like a normal human, and then, like Hulk out and turn into a gorilla or an ape or a dolphin or all sorts of, various animals. Unfortunately, or realistically compared to our world, that creates a rift with humans. Humans don't like beastmen. Beastmen are stronger than humans. Humans outnumber beastmen. They're constantly in conflict, and beastmen are hunted and they're not considered human or living, so you can murder them, except Anima City. It's like a giant Hong Kong kind of place where like everybody, all the beastmen from the world are flooding in to live in this one safe place that's like government sanctioned. And it follows the story of a normal human girl who was turned into a beastman against her own will, something that should have been impossible. And she escapes the human world to flee as a basically a poor beggar to Anima City and starts a totally new life there. Ends up getting partnered with a wolf detective that is very curious to find out what sort of miracle or poison it is that can turn humans into beastmen, and maybe even the other way around. So it's a little bit of a detective story. It's a little bit of a teen coming of age story. It's a little bit of accepting you for who you are story and how to change and grow as a person. But it moves, it's like putting the VHS tape on 3x fast forward, and it is all about attitude and style. Characters show up, they've got crazy clothes, they've got crazy art style, they got bright punchy colors, they move super fast, it's animated, cartoony. It just oozes style. Like everything that the Studio Trigger does, it's 100% style over substance, and it's very fun to watch, especially if you're really loaded on Delta 8, which I've had to be recently due to the pain. I would say that for the most part, it's a comedy show, since it's about a girl kind of finding herself and bumbling through life and learning things. And the animal aspects of it are very infrequently sexual, like Beastars. They're played up more for comedy and differences, and it's kind of like a PG-13 rated sort of thing. One thing I love about it, though, is that it keeps ramping up in chaos. There's not a lot of building episodes. It starts at one level, and every single episode, you're just upping the stakes constantly until the stakes end up getting completely absurd, which is kind of a Studio Trigger special. A lot of their animes end up with like, it starts off normal and ends up with like utterly galactic stakes, but super fun to watch. It's only 13 episodes. You could watch it in a couple of hours and enjoy the whole thing as one complete story, and I'd highly recommend it. Moving along to number 3 today, I want to talk about Helluva Boss. Some of you may be asking, well, is this anime? And the answer is, well, technically no, but it's anime inspired, at least. Some of the characters are anime style, a little bit Disney style, a lot of Invader Zim. If you liked Invader Zim, very similar to that style. Is this furry? Well, technically not, but basically every single character is a demon, and there's a lot of animal demons ranging from imps that kind of look like possums or half goats all the way to owl demons and a variety of other different, as a wolf demon, Looney, who's one of the characters that we'll talk about later. So there are definitely some furry elements to this show, even though it is not fully furry or anime. It's close enough for me, and it's awesome. Just a generally great show that I've wanted to talk about. The basic plot that you'll get from watching this is that it follows a group of hitmen in hell. They get hired to kill Earthlings. So if you die and you go to hell, you can hire these demons to go to Earth and get your revenge for you for money, because hell is kind of like a bad version of the Earth we live in now. People still have to work jobs, they still have to pay bills, there's still a government, there's still electricity, things like that. It's just like a really crummy version because all the people in hell are horrible, crummy people. So the story Helluva Boss follows the boss of these sort of murderous hitmen that will get your revenge for you in the human world. Most of the episodes are quite short. A lot of them are less than 15 minutes long, but every single one of them is extremely chaotic. If you cut this with a knife, it would just bleed chaotic energy all over everything. It's also extremely violent and extremely offensive. It probably could not get an R rating at a traditional theater. It's getting a little bit closer to that kind of NC-17 territory with how just kind of offensive it can get from episode to episode. And essentially each episode is a new assassination mission. A person dies, they go to hell, they want to hire these people in hell to get their revenge, so the demons go to Earth and they encounter some type of chaos. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but things like, oh, they're supposed to go kill like a country family for revenge, and they get there and it turns out the country family is all like excellent hunters, or just something that just becomes wildly violently chaotic. From episode to episode, what consistent plot you do get beyond the chaos is mostly in the form of a relationship drama and how these characters get along with each other. And since they're all, I assume, formerly human or demons, they're all deeply flawed, largely amoral characters trying to do better and just really kind of struggling to make a relationship work. A lot of the show is carried by the main character, who's voiced by Brandon Rogers, a YouTuber whose content can never be monetized. You should totally check out Brandon Rogers' YouTube channel. I think it's called Hot Banana Stud, for what videos haven't been taken down. And dude's just hilarious. It's like the perfect role for him. He essentially plays a character that has perhaps not the greatest of IQs, a really bad attitude, very impulsive, very temperamental, but also very lonely and like wants to do good things and like wants to connect with people, but can't do it in a healthy way. I will say about this show, if you're considering watching it, it is very sexual with a lot of LGBT stuff. And I mean a lot. It's a pretty gay show, so you got to be comfortable to watch that. And it's probably more sexual than Beastars. I will say that it makes more sense given that all of the characters are amoral demons that live in hell. I mean, they can't be sent any lower. There's no sins they can't commit that are worse. They've had almost all of their morality stripped away. So if you're gonna make a show with a bunch of gay stuff, having it with a whole bunch of demons in hell makes way more sense than almost anything else I see on the CW. Interestingly, almost every single episode also has a musical segment. I don't know exactly why they did this, but it's kind of great. Each musical segment is a totally different theme and tone, and it fits into the plot of the show. And they kind of remind me like maybe like parodies of like a Disney musical segment in, oh my God, Disney movies. I don't know, Snow White or something. There is a kind of teen angst tone to it. It very much so feels like a little bit emo, a little bit angry teen girl, almost as if Tumblr made a show, but instead of being embarrassing, it was actually really good. I think that's one of the ways I would really describe this show, is if you let the users of Tumblr write a show, and then you sent it to like a professional scriptwriter to polish it up and turn it into something great. And that's essentially what happened. Helluva Boss is completely free to watch on YouTube. It's a totally independent creator, VisiPop. She makes this show basically from her own money, crowdfunding, selling merchandise, whatever sort of views it gets. It's a YouTube show. So this, my number one, has actually topped 2 Netflix exclusives because I think it's that good. And it's about as independent of a content as you can possibly get, which is why it's so offbeat and different. The downside, though, is that you only get one episode about every 2 or 3 months, and there's currently only, I want to say, 7 episodes out as of recording this. They're worth waiting for. Every episode is good, but you're not going to get a whole like anime arc story out of it. This is comedy. This is something for you to watch, laugh at, have a lot of fun. It's crazy enough to where it mixes really well with Delta 8, so I can recommend that. And as a note, it's not technically part of the series, but there's a different one called Has Been Hotel. It actually came before this one. It's set in the same place with a few of the same characters, and this one was popular enough to just the pilot episode in future series got bought by A24 Films, which is a big production company, and eventually there'll be a whole series for that one, probably off of YouTube. But the pilot's still on YouTube, and it's kind of more of the same if you want to check it out. It's really good, but probably a little bit less funny and a little bit more meaningful if you think about what's going on. So that has been my top 3 furry animes. Oh my god, I can't believe I made this video. What has happened to me? What's going on? I don't really know. Why is there so many weird videos on this channel? That's because I've spent I have no idea how many months in the worst health you can imagine, not really able to play video games or do much of anything, and now I'm finally feeling good like a normal human being again, and I want to do things that are fun. I don't want to jump on Call of Duty and grind it out. I want to talk about crazy stuff and just I don't know, have a bit more fun, get a little bit more silly with my channel, experiment, whatever. So let me know what you think about this kind of content. Let me know what you think about my commentary, descriptions, editing, images, the shows, pretty much any opinion you've got to share. I'm going to be considering for feedback. And as always, if you enjoyed, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.